Pakistan has condemned India's move to abolish disputed Kashmir's special status, adding that it would exercise all possible options to counter the move.
India's Home Minister announced today that it would scrap Article 370, revoking the special status of Kashmir with immediate effect. Under Article 370, Kashmir was allowed to own constitution and flag. It had autonomy over all matters except defense, foreign affairs and communications.
And for more analysis, we're speaking to Dr. Ronojoy Sen, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of South Asian Studies, National University of Singapore. Thank you very much for coming in and speaking to us. So the question is, why the rush now to revoke the special status on Kashmir?
Well, the abrogation of Article 370 was always on the political agenda of the BJP. It's always been there in the manifestos. Even the 2019 manifesto had it as one of the things on the agenda. But they never had the numbers in Parliament to enforce this. And this is the first time that the BJP has the numbers, both in the lower and more importantly in the upper house of Parliament, to push through legislations which they hold dear. So in that sense, we saw in the past few weeks the government pushing through some controversial legislation, including legislation on the triple talaq. Again, the upper house had been an obstacle for these legislations, but that wasn't so. So I think that really is the imperative, the numbers that they have, which now empowers and enables the government to push through these kinds of legislation.
And what does it mean on the ground then in Kashmir for the people living there, the fact that this Article 370 has been scrapped?
Well, as you mentioned, it does give Kashmir a special status, which has been there right from the early years of independence, from early 1950s. So this is something that the political parties are not going to take lying down. The two main political parties, their leaders are under house arrest. They've already let their displeasure be known. So in that sense, I think we are in for political turmoil, even though the government might be taking a position, whatever position they are taking, but it all seems very unilateral and imposed from the center. None of the stakeholders have been consulted.
And this political turmoil is coming from within India. This is before we've even discussing Pakistan. Right,
this is from within the Indian administered part of Kashmir, where even the political parties, the mainstream political parties which have been part of the political process for all these years, even they are likely to be very much alienated by this move.
So what about the people, in Kashmir, those, the regular folks, what's going to happen to them? How is it going to change their lives?
One of the things that really riles the ordinary Kashmiri is the heavy presence of the army. And over the years, we've seen some reduction of the army presence. But in the last couple of weeks, we've seen an enormous infusion of troops into Kashmir. I think upwards of 25,000 troops. So this is something that the civilian population is not going to like. The presence of boots on the ground has always been a source of tension and discord.
Yeah, especially in Kashmir. Talk to us about Pakistan then and sort of their view on this and how they're likely to respond.
Well, I think the Pakistani foreign minister has already let it be known that Pakistan is going to go to different international fora, including, of course, the UN. But I don't think that's really going to have much of an impact on the Indian policy. India is going to say this is an internal matter, and the Constitution allows India to abrogate Article 370. So I don't see the Pakistani pressure as having too much impact on the Indian government's decision.
What about, because Kashmir is owned by both Pakistan and India, so what's going to happen to the Pakistan-controlled Kashmir then?
The Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, as India calls it, or as Pakistan calls it, Azad or Free Kashmir, has had its own administrative setup, own election over the years. So I think the status quo regarding Kashmir between India and Pakistan remains, even though I think this will lead to a rise in tensions. But that really is something that we really have to closely monitor. I don't think India-Pakistan relations are definitely not going to improve after this move. But again, as I said, I don't think Pakistan or the international community will be able to stop India from doing what the government will say is an internal administrative and constitutional move.
And what is Pakistan's concern about this happening?
Well, I think Pakistan says that Kashmir is a disputed territory, and it's been with the UN ever since partition happened. So they will say that India is unilaterally changing the position of what is seen internationally as a disputed territory. So that's the line they are going to probably take in the UN over the next coming days. But again, I don't see that having an impact on the Indian government's policy.
Okay, well, many thanks for coming in and
Thank you.
Giving us your perspective on it. Dr. Ronojoy Sen, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of South Asian Studies.